G'day viewers, it's Michael here again and welcome back to Single Racer. And for those of my subscribers that are subscribed to many other sim racing channels, you'd already probably know that RSS, or more commonly known as RaceSim Studios, have released the final car here in their what you would call box set collection, the GT Pack collection. This makes 6 cars now and finally completes this whole collection. Now they're calling it the Ferruccio 57, but we might more commonly know it as the Ferrari 575. For legal reasons, of course, they can't use that name. But regardless, here it is to round out the final collection. But I have to admit that when I first saw it, and I first saw it on the brilliant and always up-to-date Sim Racing 604 channel, but when I set eyes on it I was a bit disappointed, because I agree with Mike Smith, who also says that the Ferruccio 55 is kind of the most disappointing car in the group. But he uses the analogy of ice cream in that there's no bad tasting ice cream really, but I would take it more so in that my analogy would be a bit like chocolate, in that my dad used to eat this dark chocolate and I wouldn't touch it. So for me it wasn't my favourite car to drive. But I don't know what they've done, but this is to me a totally different car. I think it might have to do with maybe it's a better balance, 50-50 weight balance or something like that. But whatever it is a great car to drive and has an awesome sound as well. I really like this car. And now, speaking of this car, I just literally today watched a great video where Ferrari Man 601 did a comparison video on Monza comparing the original Ferruccio 55 to this car, the 57. And although in his video, and I'll have a link to that video in the description, but although his video, the 55 is faster, and I think that has to do with the 57 having slightly more weight within the car, I just personally like this car better. And I did a video where I drove all other 5 cars on Spa, and my original goal was to do or try and do an RSR top 20 time in each car. Now I was rapt that I actually did better than that. I managed to get a top 15 time in every car, and in one of the cars was a top 10 time. But essentially I did a time ranging from a 217 to a 220. That was the range of the 5 cars that I drove, so I was naturally going to see if I could do a 220 time in this car as well, being slightly slower and slightly heavier, but still seeing if it could handle well enough to do that time on Spa. And yet it was ironically Ferrari Man that said he watched that video of the 5 laps and figured I'd do a lap of the Spa in this car, and said would I mind being a Supercar Taxi again and take him around the lap when I do the lap as a passenger to see how I perform. And now of course I smiled and said yeah sure, but then he burst out laughing and said, well actually I know I can beat your time, I just want to see how poorly you do and I'll give you some advice at the end of the lap. So that's was his motivation for that. And I think it was payback for all the times that I said I could beat him in a hot lap in the Arbath 595, so it's total payback there. But so now let's head off to Spa in the final car in the GT Pack collection by RaceSim Studios, and let's see if I can still pull out in this new car at the very least a 220 lap. Now I'll be doing commentary with Ferrari Man as the passenger, so let's head on over there. So this is Michael signing out for Single Racer. I'll catch you next time. See you later. And let's go hot lapping. Okay, Ferrari Man 601, just before we take off, have a look around the car and get comfortable. Check it out, check out the view, make sure you're ready to go. Alright, you're all buckled in and ready to go? Alright, let's do this flying hot lap then. Okay, Ferrari Man 601, let's go for a flying lap of Spa. So did you enjoy that, Ferrari Man 601? Oh geez, you're a hard man to please, but I know you are the master at the hot lap, so I'll forgive you this time. Okay folks, let's do a hot lap of Spa in the Ferruccio 57. Now whenever I do a hot lap on any track, I always like to sacrifice the run-in to the start-finish line to get a smooth and a speedy exit across the start-finish line as I possibly can to maximise that hot lap speed. I like to run a shallow line, and so I run first gear down like this to try and stop the wheel spin. Now in testing, this car didn't have a lot of torque like some cars to run through this section, so I changed down to fifth just to maximise that pull, because
The speed on this long back straight is one of the most important. And try and maximise the speed to hit as high in 6th gear as we can. Now I roll with the corner down to 3rd, then down to 2nd to be as smooth as I can. And I back up to 3rd because I use this little runoff now to gain some extra speed there. So that really helps with my hot laps, using that extra runoff. Now down to this horrible wait corner, and unfortunately I mucked that up a little bit. And then up to 3rd, but almost immediately off the power so that I can get a good run off onto this downhill section. Now I almost cruise here down to 4th and hold it, and then so I can only accelerate the once and get full power coming onto this back section. Now I roll again with 3rd beautifully, and then I turn in a little bit earlier than the brain wants to tell me to maximise this curve. I don't really know if it helps, but that's just what I like to do. Down to 2nd here. This has always been a bit hard for me, but then up to 4th, and then I just judge how much I need to ease off to maximise the speed, but I didn't need to ease off there, which is great. Now up to 6th gear, but here's an important bit where I go completely to the right and run the left wheels to the right to maximise full speed. See, I didn't need to lift off there because I did that. Back down to 2nd, and then I hold waiting for 1st, and I do that to try and stop that wheel spin, but there it is, it's a bugger. And let's see how we go across the start-finish line now. That's it, beautiful, a 2:19.784. Now, when I did this lap, because this is the replay, when I did the lap, I was the world's record, but that's probably because a lot of people haven't downloaded the car yet, so I'm sure that'll go. But my feeling is that if I had a whole day of getting dialed in, I could do a 2:17. I feel I have a lot left, and so a 2:19 is great, but I feel I can do a 2:17 if I really pushed. So this is Michael signing out for Single Racer. I hope you liked it. I'll catch you next time. See you later.